Yo, hello, Rare Drop, Skulls Nightshade here, and let's talk about the Knuckles show. Before we get deeper into this video, I do want to mention that there will be spoilers, so heavy spoiler warning. I'll try not to dive too deep, but I will have to talk about specific things that happen in the show in order to get my point across. So if you're watching this video, you haven't watched the show yet, and you don't want any spoilers, just make sure you come back to this video when you're done watching. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the show. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about and haven't taken the time to Google it yet, let me tell you. Paramount just recently dropped a 6-episode series about Knuckles, which is a spin-off to the Sonic movies. They plan to do this with more characters and more aspects of Sonic, which I think is a great idea. Just to develop a bigger cinematic universe, as well as depict the characters in ways that they haven't been able to in the past. So, pretty exciting, right? Well, the Sonic fan base's reaction to the Knuckles show was not good. Expectations were high following all of this amazing Sonic news we've been getting as of recent. And it didn't seem like the show met everyone's expectations. I've seen people mention that they like certain characters in the show, and some people even saying that this is the worst piece of Sonic content that we've ever had, which, I mean, that's just not true. There were some things about the show that were heavily disappointing, but I don't think it's the worst piece of Sonic media. I think that's a bit melodramatic. It's so funny because very recently I was talking about how I feel like for the past year or so, for the most part, Sonic fans have been kind of on the same page about things. Of course, we all have differing opinions and different things that we love about the Sonic series, but it's much different than how it used to be in the past, where it was pretty much a meme about how divided Sonic fans are and how harsh they are towards each other. It's always okay to have a different opinion than someone else, but please guys, let's make sure we're not toxic towards each other. Ultimately, we all love Sonic, and that should always be the main focus. Feel free to discuss things and criticize things, but don't put people down. I hate seeing that. All right, let's talk about the show. I'm done rambling now. That was my PSA. So the show actually starts off pretty strong with showing Knuckles basically, I don't know, just in his true form. He's an ancient warrior who doesn't understand modern life in in human society on Earth and makes that blatantly obvious. He's literally causing chaos, and he thinks that he's protecting his land and things like that. So it's really interesting to see that. Also, his interactions with Maddie, Sonic, and Tails are really good in the first episode. But on the flip side, you could cut out all of that up until he talks to his ancestor, and it wouldn't have changed the show. One big thing I noticed was some of the focus from the beginning never came back around at the end, like Maddie grounding Knuckles for his behavior. After Knuckles talked to his ancestor, he left, very obviously still being grounded, and that was just never mentioned again in the show. To me, that could have gone different ways. I don't know, but I felt like saying you're grounded and him leaving and just never acknowledging that just felt really weird. And that's not the only thing that kind of left itself detached in the show. There was a lot of issues with the writing, in my opinion. A lot of the problems came from the dialogue. The dialogue Knuckles had was amazing. It depicted Knuckles perfectly, and Idris Elba did a wonderful job helping paint that picture. But all of the human characters, it all felt forced. It all felt like too corny. It kind of felt like all those things that you worry about happening in a show like this, like an adaptation of a game or something in pop culture. Mainly with the human characters themselves. The dialogue was rough. The dialogue was very, very rough. There were some really good moments with the dialogue, but most of those moments were the actual times that Knuckles was speaking to another character in the show or expressing himself. Once Wade gets introduced to the show, the focus splits between Knuckles and Wade. And that's where it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Although we knew that there would be human characters in the show, it was very heavily implied in the trailer that the focus was going to be on Knuckles. And if you guys haven't seen the trailer, I did a reaction to it quite some time ago. I'll put a link to the video in the description in case you want to go and watch that real quick. But definitely was strange having the focus not solely be on Knuckles. I was worried about Sonic outshining him. Now, it's not as bad as I've heard people say. Some people were saying that Knuckles was barely in the show and this and that. And honestly, I don't agree with that. We got a lot of scenes with Knuckles in it, but it wasn't. I will admit, it was not nearly as focused on Knuckles as I thought it would be. One of the episodes that really bothered people was, I think it was episode 4, the one where there was that musical number about Knuckles' past when Wade got captured and he went into that deep trance after getting electrocuted. I actually enjoyed that episode, although Knuckles wasn't very present in it. It was kind of cool to see Wade personally understand Knuckles' past a bit deeper. But what I will agree with a lot of people criticizing that episode is that it felt like filler. And I don't think we need filler in a 6-episode series. The reason I say that is because very obviously they had to cut things down in order to keep it 6 episodes in 30 minutes, around 30 minutes each episode. That's not a whole lot of time to depict a story. And it just seemed a little weird to have a big focus on that filler episode. But all in all, I am a sucker for musical numbers, so I enjoyed. Oh, another thing I thought was weird was that they just randomly threw in the bad guy from Sonic 06, the flame guy. The flame dude. I didn't finish Sonic 06 very obviously, so I don't remember his name exactly. But it just seemed kind of random and kind of thrown in there. I really think they could have used that moment to show something that was like very memorable and iconic for Knuckles. Although I had a gripe about the human characters, I loved Wade's mom. Wade's mom was a straight up G. Also, it's kind of funny to hear that Knuckles is basically Jewish. I thought that was really funny. But I loved Wade's mom. I loved her interactions with Knuckles. I love how accepting she was. I love how she was very understanding of his past and let him be himself. That was really nice. I love that character building. I love the interactions between them. But yeah, Wade's mom was cool. Wade's sister, I will say they did an absolutely wonderful job writing a character that is so unlikable. Like, even in her nice moments, I still didn't like her. She was so unlikable. They did a great job making me dislike her. So not all of the writing was bad, but it seemed like a lot of the interactions overall could have used some work. When I first saw that the focus was going to be like a bowling tournament, I almost immediately checked out because I feel like that trope is so overdone, with it being like a bowling tournament or something like that, mini golf or something, and it's just not as significant as they make it seem in the show. And I'm like, why is this the focus? But it actually was a really intriguing story and did keep me engaged that entire time. It was really nice to see Wade win at the end and just overcome all of his struggles and all of the obstacles he had the entire show. One thing that I really craved from the show was more fights, and I mentioned this earlier. We did have some brief fighting moments, and although they were good, it felt like every fight was cut short. It felt like they cut out like 80% of the fight. But ultimately, I would love to see them do a season 2 and change some of these things, fix some of these problems, and make the focus mainly Knuckles. The ending of the show is pretty satisfying. I know I mentioned this earlier, but I'm still so hung up on the grounded thing. Like, they could have done a callback to that, whether it be Maggie calling Wade for 2 seconds and being like, hey, have you seen Knuckles? Because she found the newspaper with his face on it. And being like, he's supposed to be grounded. And he's either like, oh, I've got Knuckles, don't worry. Or like, they hide it from Maggie and that's like a minor plot point. But like anything. Or a post-credit scene. Like, it was so cool seeing Knuckles be like, that's my jam. But that could have been the end of the show. And the post-credit scene could have been him getting in trouble with Maggie or her calling or something. Because he was gone for days at least. Maybe even weeks. I don't know how much time passed. But it was enough time for them to know As much as I didn't want Sonic to come in and outshine Knuckles, it would have been cool to maybe see him pop in to check on Knuckles and be like, hey, bud, aren't you supposed to be grounded? Or I don't know. But there were a few other plot points that were kind of disconnected like that and just never came back. But that one really bothered me the most because it just seemed silly, like they didn't have to include it. So let's wrap this up. I feel like I've been rambling for a while. The Knuckles show was not bad. I mean, if I had to rate it, I would probably give it a 6 out of 10. And I don't think it's the worst piece of Sonic content. However, some of the dialogue was so cringe, it was kind of painful to sit through. There were just, I don't know, there were just some things that got forgotten in the past, or we were expecting a bit more Knuckles lore rather than the same lore told to us multiple times. That's why I got excited for the show. I wanted to see them dive into his lore a little bit more. I wanted to see them like go into that in ways that they couldn't in the games or even in the movies for the sake of time. And they had so many opportunities to do that and didn't use it. Some things that I did really like though is Knuckles looked absolutely amazing. They did a really, really good job with him. There were so many times I wanted to just like pet his little nose when it would like do the little scrunch thing or pat him on the head. Like he just looks so cuddly, and they depicted Knuckles very well. They did something that a lot of Sonic series don't, and kind of depicted his innocence. They always show his ignorance and kind of foolishness with not really knowing the outside world other than his duty to protect the Master Emerald. They never show the innocence of Knuckles. Like, I don't know. It just like, it just, my heart melted seeing his little smile sometimes, like when he was talking to Wade's mom or hanging with Wade's family, or, you know, like looking at Wade proudly. Like, it was just so cute to see his little like innocent, happy face. But anyway, guys, that is it for this video. I would love to know what you guys thought about the Knuckles show in the comments. Again, please be respectful, respect others' opinions. I don't want to see any unnecessary hate. Please don't be toxic about it. You are more than welcome to criticize the show or praise the show as you feel necessary. Just, you know, explain why and express that. But please don't target each other and cause any problems. I don't like that. All right, I hope you all stay comfy. Bye.